Man, this is Diane Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. After a brief holiday break, we're back with our first podcast of 2026. This is episode 22 of our 11th season of The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. I'm your host, John DeCarlo, Al Scoop's editor. I'm joined today by our assistant editor, Kyle Gauss, and two of our reporters, Colin Schofield and Jacob Marino. You can read their work in the Temple News. You can read Colin in the Philadelphia Inquirer. You can read and consume Jacob's work on the Sixers Sense, covering the Sixers as well. But we're talking to you about a lot of Temple football and basketball news today. It's been a busy 2 weeks since we last talked to you. So between Temple's football transfer portal targets and upcoming visits and Temple men's basketball 6-game winning streak, we've got a lot to catch up on. So we hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, and anything and everything else you guys were celebrating this holiday season. Hope it was great. How you guys doing? How's the holiday season for you? Give me something you're grateful for and a goal you have for 2026.
Something I'm grateful for?
Yeah. Not a great start for you, Colin. I think you have plenty to be grateful for.
Oh, no, I know I do. I'm trying to pick something. I'll start with a goal first.
Okay.
Well, I decide a goal is for me to 2026 is to lose weight. I want to lose a little bit of weight.
If you need to lose weight, then I need to lose weight.
I don't think I need to lose weight. It's a want. Like I want to lose weight. I want to be more like lean for going to the gym. And I think I'm grateful that I got to have a great Christmas with my family and great holiday season. And yeah.
A very wholesome moment got in the way of my trying to burn John by saying my New Year's resolution was for John to lose weight.
I could stand to drop like 10 pounds.
We all can, right? Like It's that time of year. I feel like I do a good job up until around like October, and then I gain 15 pounds in November and December.
That's exactly what happened to me. Exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
I consciously did not step on the scale till today because I didn't want my weight. I didn't want to see a weight that started with 1.9. So I was like, we'll just give myself a couple days to deflate, and we'll go from there. Same resolution. I'm trying to lift again. I lifted the first 2 months of last year, and then I got the flu and stopped lifting. So I'm going to try to lift again. I've lifted once this year, and my body is killing me. As for what I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for every opportunity I have to be with this stellar podcast.
I detect some snark.
No.
Take it.
I've said this before, just compare it to maybe like last year's team. Just the vibes are just better on the Scoop.
What's last year's team have?
Here comes Johnny's gonna. Johnny is still convinced that you don't like him, no matter how many times I've said this to him via text, in our group chat, in person. He just, I don't know.
You know why? Because I haven't told him that I don't dislike him. One thing that Jacob, go ahead and give your wholesome answer so I can get into what pissed me off this holiday season.
Gotcha. I'm just picturing just some guy commuting to their job, listening to this pod, and just hearing about Colin's weight problems at 6:45 in the morning on 95.
Yeah. And he's never felt more connected to the Scoop.
Yeah. Give us some gratitude. Give us some goal setting.
I think the first thing I'm grateful for, the thing I'm grateful for, is VJ Edgecombe.
Well, until last night.
Fair. It's fair.
Right?
Basketball player.
And I think I'm just going to try to be more proactive on things, just kind of because I feel like a lot of times I go kind of week by week with things. It was it's good to prevent burnout, but kind of bit me in the ass, especially in your sports writing class a little bit. And,
you were fine. You did a great job in class.
But yeah, I think
a little hard on yourself.
Yeah, but I think that would be my goal.
Anything so if you're going to be more proactive, I'm envisioning maybe a huge desk calendar for you at the Temple News.
Yeah. Or I'm campaigning for a mini hoop to be set up in the newsroom as well. Not related, but just figure I could get it out there.
You put it over Raleigh or Hollis Jefferson's head on that poster, which was donated to us by our friend Andrew Goldstein.
That would honestly be perfect.
What photo of Raleigh is it?
It's a huge poster.
Life-size poster.
Yeah, so a little shout out, super quick story because I know we have a lot to get to. Over the summer, Andrew and I saw the Doobie Brothers, went to go pick him up at his home in North Jersey, caught up with his kids, caught up with his wife, and he said, I want to give you something. And his brother Randy passed away a couple years ago, and Randy was did a lot of side jobs, stat runner for different games, and Randy had saved this Raleigh Hollis Jefferson poster that was a giveaway at a Temple game. And Andrew's like, I want to give you this. So I immediately brought it into the newsroom, and it's now up in the newsroom at the
Do
Temple
me a
News.
favor. One of you bring a measuring tape and see how tall it has Raleigh actually has. Because they listed him at 6'6". He was not 6'6".
Yeah.
We could do that during print. We have nothing else better to do.
Raleigh also had like basically played like big for them a lot, and he was like 6'5", 6'4.5".
Yeah.
Very good player. They could take 12 Raleigh Hollis Jeffersons. Two things pissed me off about the holiday season.
Yeah.
One, that just reminded me as I'm having a drink from here. Coke using an AI commercial pisses me off. I don't know if anybody saw this during football. Like, oh, it's a squirrel up in the tree, and here's a polar bear. Coke made its bread and butter after it got rid of the cocaine out of its product by like being the best advertising company. Like Coke was the best advertising company, and now you're throwing AI slop out there on the national television. Two, you know what people don't tell you about New Year's resolutions? The bad side of it is whatever your resolution is, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to work out more. You go hard the other way for like the 2 weeks before the New Year's because you know that's your resolution coming. Oh, I'm going to lose weight in the New Year's. I'm going to be a slob for 21 straight days, like beforehand. So like you make your resolution harder on yourself, and I definitely felt that this year because I feel like I ate and drank myself an extra like 7 pounds when I could have like helped January Kyle.
I feel like New Year's resolutions are low-key a scam.
I mean, I feel like just the human mind likes the turning of the page of like I got a clean slate.
That's probably true, yeah.
I got a clean slate. This is an opportunity for me to leave the last year in the past.
That's probably true.
Those are good goals. Solid goals. I had no idea there was an AI commercial that Coke had produced.
Oh, it's disgusting.
It's like you could tell it's very clearly, it says in the bottom, like generated by whatever. And it's just bullcrap. Like, give me the polar bears. Like, I understand they were CGI, right? But somebody made those polar bears before, and they were popping the soda, and the one's wearing a scarf, even though he's a polar bear, and it has a natural body worth of scarves. I want that. I don't want this AI slop that I could just go to ChatGPT and be like, give me a cliche Coke commercial.
Are you old enough to remember the old school Budweiser commercial with the Clydesdales?
Yeah. I've seen the Clydesdales. I saw the Clydesdales at Broad in Washington. They were in a like dirt lot prior, because Broad in Washington's all built up now, but 10, 15 years ago it was not. I saw the Clydesdales down there when I lived there. I was like, Clydesdales are chilling here.
I missed that commercial.
Yeah. They used to give away a year's worth of Bud. They like somebody would win a year's worth of Budweiser, and they would deliver it with the Clydesdales.
Yeah. Free shout out to Budweiser on the scoop. We are not delivering a free year's worth of Budweiser to anybody. We can tell you that the scoop, as always, brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us. Temple Law grads will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. Our friend Mike Greenspan will take great care of you. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. With the new year, we have a new subscriber sale for you with On3 and alscoop.com. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're subscribed, that's great. That's one thing. We are talking about subscribing to alscoop.com, which is part of the Rivals and On3 network. If you subscribe today and get a new annual subscription, you can get 50% off Alscoop, On3, and Rivals for the latest transfer portal intelligence, our message boards where you can interact with fellow Temple fans and get the latest football and basketball scoop. And you'll get that full year of access still to the Athletics. So it's a great deal. There's certainly a lot going on. So you don't want to miss out. If you are a diehard Temple fan, you don't want to miss out, because we're going to be bringing a lot of football and basketball news your way, especially along the transfer portal front. And a lot of times, if we get some dependable information, we get some scoop, we're going to put it on the football board first. So a lot of good stuff to get to. It's a great time to subscribe, and we promise to make it worth your while if you do. As I said, plenty of news to get to with the transfer portal 2-week window being open. To give you all of you a bit of a reset here. Again, if you are a diehard Temple football fan, you've been keeping up on this stuff, but We're talking about a 2-week transfer portal window that's been open since January 2nd, although there's certainly a lot that goes on. Before that, it's open from January 2nd through the 16th. So although players have been announcing their intentions to enter the portal since last month, and although you have Division II players who could enter the portal last month, the 2-week flurry of visits and commitments is definitely underway. So since we last talked to you, Temple struck out on Saginaw Valley State quarterback Mason McKenzie, who committed to Boston College over the weekend on his official visit before he could get to Temple. Kind of shades of what happened with Trinidad Chambliss last year. Mason McKenzie's coming from that same athletic conference in the D2 level, but he is off to Boston College. Temple did extend an offer to Elon quarterback Landon Clark, who is a Jerry Rice Award finalist there. But as of now, on January 6th, it looks like he's going to be a tough get. He already visited James Madison. He has a Cal offer, just wrapped up an official to Kentucky, but he's also an example of how the dominoes can fall here. He's on his Kentucky visit, thanked the staff for a great visit on social media. Looks like he's having a good time. And then Kenny Minchie, the former Notre Dame backup, flips from his Nebraska verbal to Kentucky. So I'd find it hard to believe that he would commit to Kentucky. So now he moves on to the next place. So Temple had also offered former William & Mary quarterback Tyler Hughes, but then last night he announces his commitment to Wyoming. All of that brings us to what Peter Nakos from On3 reported, which is that former Memphis backup Arrington Maiden is set to visit Temple today after he's made visits to North Texas and James Madison. He was a 3-star recruit with offers from Memphis, UTSA, North Texas, and Boston College out of high school. He played at College Station High School in Texas. So On3 once had him rated as the 177th ranked player in the state in the 2024 class, which is pretty good down in Texas. Kyle, tell us a little bit about Arrington Maiden and how you think the portal quarterback market has kind of played out for Temple, and how we've kind of talked about it. We've stayed in touch on this and how they might need to let it kind of trickle down to them. Just talk to people about where we are with this whole thing.
Yeah, I think to answer the second part first, I get it because, the type of people that are subscribing to us or competitors or paying attention to this are like the diehards of the diehards. So I understand when people get like frustrated right away. I really want to caution people that the portal has been open for 3 days and Temple has just started having people on site on official visits like 24 hours ago. So when people are already talking like, oh, this staff is swinging and missing and blah, blah, like it is Tuesday. And there is still plenty of time for this. The spring semester starts soon, but you can get kids in a couple weeks late. Not everybody will be a spring enrollee. Sometimes you'll get kids that will show up later in the year, like Giovanni McCoy last year. As far as Arrington Maiden and the quarterback transfer market, Maiden, I think, fits the offense really well. It's a really small sample size. Like he only attempted 10 passes last year. But he ran 13 times for 79 yards and a touchdown. Like he's very much like a dual threat quarterback that like it seems like Tyler Walker wants to run, like he did like with Tommy Millott at Montana State. The biggest kind of run that he got was he came in relief against Tulane and played pretty well against arguably the best team in the conference. Like he had 51 yards, completed 4 out of 6 passes against Tulane. He ran for 35 yards and a touchdown. I feel like he would be a guy that, since he's a redshirt freshman, he has 3 years of eligibility left. That gives you the possibility of, if you're a Temple, of maybe we sign you to a multi-year deal. Maybe you might have the ability for Temple to kind of protect itself against the future. If he goes out and throws for 4,000 yards and rushes for 1,000, not much you can do to prevent Texas Tech from coming to get him. But if he establishes himself as an American Athletic Conference starter, then maybe you have the opportunity there. For the market in general, when you mentioned kind of like the trickle-down effect of like Landon Clark, quarterback in particular to me is, this is going to sound like a broken record of John, because I think I've said it to him like 3 times in the past 2 days, but there's a finite number of spots for these things, right? Like Florida State's not going to add 5 quarterbacks. Boston College is not going to search for another starter now that has McKenzie. I think you'll see Temple end up with a guy who right now might be considering bigger schools because those spots are going to dry up. I don't think it'll be Landon Clark. I think Landon Clark will still find a spot. But let's say Landon Clark, now that he's not going to Kentucky, says, "Oh crap! I really liked my James Madison visit. I'm going to go to JMU." Well, guess who also just visited JMU? Arrington Maiden. Mm-hmm. So like you'll see that trickle down effect where I think Temple will end up with a pretty decent quarterback, if not 2 in this, because they have said that they want to add 2 quarterbacks to this class. it just might not happen right away because you'll see, like you saw with Mason McKenzie, if Temple gets in a straight bidding war with a Power Four school, even if they can get close, like from what everybody I've talked to, Temple has a fair amount of money slotted for a quarterback this year. If all that money was offered to Mason McKenzie, I don't think Boston College went out there and offered him $2 million. Let's just put it that way. I think in the end, if it comes close, they're going to usually choose the Power Four school. I just think eventually Temple will end up with a decent quarterback just because other people are going to commit elsewhere.
We're going to say this several times throughout this podcast. Stay locked in to Owl Scoop. Stay locked into our football board. This is, by the time we get this thing wrapped up and get it edited and posted later tonight, some stuff might change. So that's part of the fun of it all. It can be anxiety inducing if you're a real diehard Temple football fan. But as Kyle said, living and dying by all this stuff, you got to let some of it play out. Certainly at the quarterback position, we're going to talk a lot more about the portal throughout this episode. Right after Christmas, a couple days after Christmas, I spoke with Brody Norman, one of the 3 quarterbacks who signed with Temple last month, and he's one of the 2, along with Brady Palmer, who are coming in this month as mid-year enrollees. He talked about being the offensive MVP for the North Carolina team in the Shrine Bowl, which is kind of like their Big 33 game down there. One of the interesting things he talked about was just the step up in competition, playing with and against fellow D1 players, and how he had to get the ball out sooner, and how some of these other receivers can make him look good. So some interesting stuff there. If you have the chance, again, you can listen to our full interview there. So a guy that is going to come in mid-year and have the chance to compete for that spot along with any transfers they bring in. So a lot more to come with visitors. We'll mention a few guys that have talked about visiting Temple or either on visits right now. There are going to be more. Like I said, some stuff is probably going to break even as we're recording this podcast. One of the names that you might have heard of is John Stone, an interior offensive lineman who was playing at Rutgers. He's a local guy out of South Jersey from Washington Township High School. He's on campus right now. Malcolm Reed, former safety at North Carolina Central, was a first-team all-conference player, an honorable mention, FCS All-American. He's on a visit to Temple this week. Jace Freeman, a big receiver from Stony Brook, also visiting Temple right now. 41 catches, 774 yards, 7 touchdowns in 10 games for Stony Brook. 6'4", 225, UConn and FAU have offered him too. Another intriguing name, Jalen Joseph, very good edge rusher from the FCS level at Lafayette. He was a finalist 2 years ago for the Jerry Rice Award. Again, these are some of the awards that you hear about. Jerry Rice Award is given to the top FCS freshman. He was a second-team All-Patriot League player this season at 7.5 sacks. Another intriguing name. Again, we're not going to go through all of these. Stay locked in on our football board. Jameer Diaz, he's originally from North Jersey, played at Passaic High School, was an D2 All-American at Glenville State in 2024. Transfers up to Sam Houston. 14 tackles, a sack, a TFL, and a fumble recovery in the first 4 games this season, and then shut it down and decided to redshirt. So he'll have 2 years of eligibility left at his next school. Kyle had pointed out on our football board, Pro Football Focus had him rated as Sam Houston's second best defensive player last year. So those are some of the names. There are a ton more. If you are subscribing to Owl Scoop, I wrote a story over the weekend about Kai Wilson, a wide receiver at Youngstown State. One of 2 players get an offer from Youngstown State. His nickname is Flash. Although he just got a Nebraska offer. Now, he had told me he's planning on visiting Temple. Again, these things can change. So who knows? Matt Rule could be messing with Temple's plans there, but a lot more to come. Great time to subscribe. This thing is constantly ongoing and constantly changing. A quick thing that we'll address, and we talk about this on our message boards. You might see that Sekou Chroma and Khalil Potita both said they're entering the transfer portal. And, I think we've had some fans DM us or text us and say, what's going on there? Why is Temple not trying to retain them? With what eligibility they're entering the portal, I don't know. Those guys are both, and I certainly wish them both well. They're great guys, good football players. They're both they're entering the portal banking on getting an extra year of eligibility, and we just don't know if they will. So if that confuses you, yes, they can say, hey, we're putting ourselves out there, we're trying to enter the portal, but as of now, they don't have an extra year of eligibility. But we're going to talk a lot more about the transfer portal, about portal targets, positions of need. We're going to get into that in the mailbag as well. So a lot more portal talk to come. Let's talk about this Temple men's basketball team that has now won 6 games in a row, heading into Wednesday night's home game against East Carolina. ECU's 5-9 overall, 0-1 in conference play. They lost 79-70 to Tulane on New Year's Eve at home. Their leading scorer, a name that you might recognize, former Temple guard Jordan Riley. He's averaging 20.8 points per game. That's the leading scoring mark in the American in his second season at ECU. They do have a good big man in Giovanni Emajuro, who could be a problem for Temple. He's 6'10", 262. He's almost averaging a double-double, 14 points, 9.5 rebounds per game. They're the only two players averaging double figures scoring for ECU. We'll get into them a little bit more in a few minutes. Again, doing a bit of a reset here. Temple's won 4 games in a row since we last talked to you on the Scoop. They needed a couple of get-right wins, obviously, over a D2 squad in Georgian Court. Then they beat St. Francis, a team that's bound for the D3 level next year. So then they went down and beat, at the time, an 8-2 Davidson team on the road, and did it without Gavin Griffiths, without Messiah Gilliard, and without AJ Smith. And we believe they'll be without AJ Smith for the rest of the year. More on that in a few minutes as well. But let's talk for a second about Jordan Mason. They beat UTSA, albeit a bad UTSA team, on Saturday by 19 points. But they did it without their leading scorer, Darian Ford, who sustained a concussion in the win down at Charlotte. We'll see what the Americans injury report says about Darian Ford ahead of the ECU game. Adam Fisher said he's been in the concussion protocol. But in that game, Jordan Mason against UTSA posted a double-double, 15 points, 12 assists. Adam Fisher rightly said he might have had a few more had Temple shot the ball better in the first half. Gavin Griffiths heated up in the second half, finished with 23 points, also blocked a career-high 7 shots. But let's pause, talk about Jordan Mason for a second. I remember Bobby Jordan telling me about how excited he was when they got him. He's averaging 11.9 points per game, 4.9 assists per game, 3.1 rebounds per game, shooting 46% from the floor. He's 40th nationally in assist-to-turnover ratio, second in the conference in that stat, just behind Dre Kindell, who's been a good JUCO addition for Wichita State. I asked Adam after Saturday's game if he could just, step back for a second. Again, a lot of basketball left to be played, and just talk about what Jordan Mason has given him so far. And this is what Adam said about Jordan Mason to this point in the season.
He's been great. This team is just so enjoyable to be around. He comes from an amazing family. His dad coaches and trains guys, so he's got that IQ. I think you build trust with each other. And I think when everybody got here in June, it was like, let's figure each other out. They figure me out. They figure their teammates out. Now you do some team building, get to July and August. And he's really stepped up as our leader, right? Darian's the vocal leader. Jordan's the lead by example guy. And when you play with a guy that's got 12 assists and quite frankly probably should have had 16 or 17 tonight, to be honest, right? Like, dudes want to play with him. And you feel good when guys want to play with you and they like you. So he's been fantastic. Who knows with all these rules, maybe he can get another 3-4 years. I don't know.
So going back to AJ Smith for a second, we might know by the end of Wednesday night's game, depending on what Adam Fisher has said, if he's going to play this year. He said AJ's family knows what our doctors have said. He stayed back with his family in North Carolina, wants to get a second opinion on his shoulder. So they could be without him for the rest of the year. We'd be shocked at this point if CJ Hines plays a game for them this year, as the NCAA continues to investigate Alabama State, which is where he was last year, and that affects his eligibility. So those are two key backcourt pieces that they were really counting on this year, and that staff is not going to have them, barring anything unforeseen. But what Temple does have is a really solid 4-guard group of Darian Ford, Aiden Tobiason, Gavin Griffiths, and Jordan Mason, who we've been talking about. You've got a point guard there in Mason, a smooth shooter in Tobiason, your guy that can get to the rim in Darian Ford, and then an athletic wing and shooter in Gavin Griffiths. And two of those guys, Darian Ford and Gavin Griffiths, are starting to show you why they were former top 100 recruits. But what I want to do here is try to set some reasonable expectations for this team. They're 10-5 with a chance to go to 11-5 if they can beat ECU. And then they have a week off before they play at Memphis. And Memphis was 4-7, but they've since won 3 in a row, and they're the preseason favorites to repeat as the conference champions. They're also 77th in the latest KenPom rankings, and they've still got some talent. So that's a benchmark game for Temple, especially on the road, but that's 8 days away. Guys, what are the reasonable expectations for this team, knowing that, again, they got this win streak started against a D2 team, a bad St. Francis team? Are those 4 guards good enough to have Temple in the mix for a league that could be there for the taking, and unless something really drastically changes, this is going to be a one bid league. Well, what can we reasonably expect from this team? What kind of context can we provide behind this 6 game winning streak?
I just want to say, first of all, I was talking to Colin about this on Saturday. I think I haven't had more fun covering a Temple basketball player than I have Jordan Mason. Like you said, he's just been phenomenal. He's been a playmaker at the Temple, just for years now. And I wrote about his assist numbers in the preview I did for you guys for the American. And I think he's just really given Temple a level of stability that just they just really haven't had. But with that being said, you mentioned the four guards. I think it's great. I think it's going to power them through conference play. But if AJ Smith's out, which it's not looking great, CJ Hines might not play. I just kind of worry about the depth, especially when it comes to tournament games, because stuff like that matters. Because say Gavin's having an off night, he's a guy who primarily just kind of plays off the ball. Say they're sending to a Darian, they're sending to a Jordan, Aiden Sharp, like you need guys to kind of like make up those minutes. And Masai Gilliard, I think he's really good in the pinch, offers kind of some niche offensive rebounding and stuff like that. Cam Wallace, there's potential, but he kind of makes some silly, obviously first year plays. So I don't know, that part kind of worries me, but with those four and how good the offense is, defense is kind of getting a little bit better with Jemiah in the starting lineup. I think they're definitely in contention, can be one of the better teams in the conference, despite playing a little bit weaker opponents to start the 6 game win streak.
Yeah, I would agree with most of that. I mean, Jordan Mason's been. I don't even want to imagine where they'd be without him. I mean, I think he's like 95th percentile in assists to turnover this year. Like he's just been the steadying presence, like Jacob said. What's a reasonable expectation? I mean, the American, as everyone knows, is just not like what you would hope if you were Tim Pernetti. I mean, when they added Wichita State, they were expecting something. When they added Temple, they were expecting something. I think that there is a firm chance that Temple's like a top 4 or 5 team in this league. What that looks like, I think I told you this before. I think the schedule is weak enough, and the drop off is enough. Even with like Memphis was down at Rice at halftime.
Yeah.
Like Memphis is, even when they're in conference now, like, yeah, they played a really, really good out conference schedule. It's what Penny Hardaway does. And then they try to beat up on the American. They had to really squeak out that game against a pretty bad Rice team. So, like, going to Memphis is hard. It's a shame that that's Temple's only chance. That scheduling is not even scheduling. It's set up to allow the top teams to avoid chances for upsets. It wouldn't surprise me if Temple goes like 19-12 or 20-11 and just beats up on some of these bad teams. Like East Carolina, Jordan Riley still can't shoot. Like it's been 2 more years. He's still the same player. He's just, his usage percentage is huge now because he's the only guy on that team that can score. They should beat ECU. UTSA is awful. Rice is bad. South Florida's mediocre. Like I think that Temple has a chance here with those guards to win 20 games. The issue is just like Jacob talked about. They just can't afford another injury. Like Messiah Gilliard, the one game they had to play without him, when Cam Wallace really had to play like 20-some minutes, you saw like he misses 2 free throws at the end. Like he's a freshman mistakes. Gilliard has his flaws as his warts, but he brings something to the table that nobody else on this team does, which is aggressiveness and strong rebounding from the guard position. If all of a sudden Jordan Mason was dinged up, or Messiah Gilliard gets dinged up again, or Darian Ford's concussion protocol lasts longer than you think, that's when you could start seeing some issues. I just don't think they have the depth now that we thought they would have 2 months ago.
I'll just echo what Kyle and Jacob both said. I think the depth's a concern with the injuries, and another injury, like I think would really hurt this team. But I think a reasonable expectation is I think this team can challenge for a top 4 spot in that new like tournament bracket where they get by to the quarterfinals and the top 2 get into the semis automatically, kind of like Kyle talked about. I think getting that 4 spot and like kind of that last spot in the quarterfinals on day 3 is, I think, a pretty reasonable expectation in a league where still a lot of questions, a lot of teams that, are kind of, I think, on the same tier as like maybe good but not great, like a Tulsa, North Texas, Wichita State, UAB. I feel like we're all kind of on the same tier. And I think Temple can be in that tier as well with that group of 4 guards. And then if we continue to see Babatunde Duradola get a little better in his role off the bench, we keep seeing Jemai Felt get healthier and continue to feel more comfortable on the court, they definitely have the talent to be in that kind of top 4 range in the conference tournament. It's just like they said, like Kyle and Jacob said, if they can stay healthy and not sustain one more injury, that might kind of put the depth at a point where it's not recoverable.
Colin, you mentioned Baba, and that's why I was going to go with this before we start talking about what's ailing the women's team right now. In the backcourt, Kyle very aptly summed up what Messiah Gilliard can give you. Cam Wallace is going to have to grow up. And again, we're trying to give him the grace of just being a true freshman. He's got a good shooting stroke, but anything that he could give them in terms of growth would help. But is Baba the key to this? I mean, right now, again, long season ahead still. Adam Fisher is looking pretty smart for moving him to the bench. And, the cynic fan would say, well, what choice did he have? He wasn't playing well. He couldn't stay on the floor. But he is starting to look a little bit more like the player he was last year. They're working some offense through him. He looks comfortable passing the ball. We don't want to overrepresent what UTSA was, not a good basketball team. But Baba is starting to look a little bit more comfortable. Is he the key to making up? He plays a different position. They're not going to be very deep in the backcourt now. Is Baba the key for this whole thing to maybe amp up a little bit level? If they can get 75% of what Babatunde Dorodola was last year, does that unlock some things for them?
Let's kind of build off that. I think heading into the season, obviously, the thing was Aiden might bring the ball up more. He might be the secondary ball handler, but obviously Jordan has evolved into like their key guy. I think almost if anything, Babatunde has been just the secondary ball handler in a sense, just with him coming off the bench, with Jordan Mason sitting, kind of initiating offense from the high post. And it's really like done well. And you also kind of see the connection with him and Aiden because there's been so many times this season where Bob is set up around the nail and then Aiden just cuts from the baseline. It's just an easy two every time. You can really see their cohesion kind of paying dividends from last season. And I think honestly, despite if the opportunity just continues to develop rhythm, I think having him as kind of the sixth man is just the best role for him because not that him and Jordan can't play together because it's not true, but I just think having him to kind of anchor the offense in the second unit has just paid off a lot. And having Jemai who's more of a play finishing guy, cut to the basket, rebound, just better overall fit for the team.
The question is he the difference maker? Is he the kind of the potential like the what's the wild card? Is that the question?
Yeah, more or less.
I have a different name in mind for who I think the wild card is. I think when you view it, like we just talked about with ECU, right? Like outside of Jordan Riley, the fact that they have a big is like that could be the wild card, right? If they beat up on Temple. I can't envision a situation where like Baba takes big enough of a step or becomes enough of a mismatch to really like just be a difference maker. The person that comes to mind for me is Gavin Griffiths. Mm-hmm. If he has the ability to, like Jacob said earlier, go from like playing off the offense to really becoming more like a focal point when he's shooting 40-45% from threes, there's nobody in this conference that can really match up with that. Like it's hard to defend a guy at that size with that much like bounce and that shooting ability. That's the one thing that really stuck out to me a lot against UTSA is like, yeah, he had 7 blocks. It's been 20 years since a Temple guy had 7 blocks. Like that's obviously impressive. The speed in which he gets those blocks, like his vertical leap stands out. Like he's just a natural athlete when it comes to that. And I think like when he's firing on all cylinders and really taking that step, you see why he was a top 40 recruit. You see that he can be like the wild card and the X factor the rest of the season. If he looks like he did against UTSA the rest of the year, sky's the limit.
To kind of put a bow on this and before we move on, I get if you were a fan and you were cynical and you were upset with how the non-conference schedule played out. Look, they lost to a St. Joe's team. A guy in Deuce Jones beat you on a buzzer beater who's not even with the program anymore. So beginning of December, a lot of fans have soured on this team. I get that. And even if you're of the mindset, like, okay, wake me up when they beat somebody really good, I get that. But 6 in a row, and these guys are continuing to buy in. I'm not saying that the season was going to go completely off the rails after they lost to St. Joe's, but I think one of Adam Fisher's strengths has been he has found the ability to get guys to buy in. And against a team, again, albeit not a great UTSA team, one of the things that impressed me about Gavin, well, a couple things. It's easier for shooters to keep shooting, but he rediscovered a shot in the second half. Also, some of those blocks were not just like, hey, I'm going to come cruising in from the weak side. Like he did a good job of going face up against somebody, making sure he didn't foul them, and still blocking shots. Like technique wise, really impressive. And as you said, Kyle, with both of these guys, all these guys transfer around now. Some guys were former top 50, top 25 guys. And if you're a Temple fan, you want to see, okay, what was the knock on Darian Ford? Why did he go to Arkansas State? Why is he here now? What was the knock on Gavin Griffiths? Why is he at his third school? But if you can take the athleticism and the skill that was there first and harness it into what you have now and buying in, which is what both these guys are doing, and I think Darian Ford's even better than I thought he was going to be in
A
terms of
lot
like
better. Yeah.
getting to the basket. I thought he might have been coming off the bench at first, but both these guys are locked
Honestly, he
in.
might have if CJ Hines' situation didn't
Yep.
happen.
Yeah. So I think these next 2 weeks are going to be really interesting. Again, they could very well be without Darian Ford again against ECU. Again, if you're not familiar, the American does injury reports prior to basketball games now too, so you'll get an indication on that prior to tomorrow night's game. They might have to be without him again. I'd have to believe that they would have him for Memphis, but if you can, again, it's a huge if you can beat ECU, not a great team, and then you go down to beat Memphis on the road, maybe that'll make some believers out of people. But we'll talk more about this men's team in the mailbag as well. We've got plenty of mailbag questions to get to. Let's touch briefly on Diane Richardson's women's basketball team because they're 6-7 now after losing their conference opener to UTSA. That was a Saturday doubleheader at the league course.
No, I want to call this out. I want to call out what Jacob just did. We're
I was
leaving
just- I
that
was just
behind in
stretching.
2025. I get enough of it from my kids. We don't have to do 6-7.
I was just stretching.
I get it. My 5-year-old, I'm sorry, 6-year-old in 4 days. My soon-to-be 6-year-old and my 3-year-old do it to me all the time, and it drives me up a wall. Jordan will bring over, or Haley will bring over a hat, like a 76ers hat, and go, it's not 76ers, it's 6-7. I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind.
I wasn't even thinking of 6-7 as I said that, and I took my eye off the screen for a second. And
Go on a winning streak, Diane, so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Ooh. Well, I'm sure Diane would agree with you. She wants to go on a winning streak, but they fell behind. They get close at the end, but 50-47 lost to UTSA. Tristan Taylor came back, scored a team high 18 points, but she didn't get much help. Kayla Turner really, really struggled in this game. Shot 3 for 18, scored just 7 points. They had 16 turnovers, some progress compared to the way they were turning the ball over in some previous games, but 16 turnovers compared to just 10 assists. They're playing Wichita State tonight as we're recording this. Wichita State's a 3-12 team, and if Temple doesn't win and take care of business, some of their issues like turnovers and poor offense, I think there's even more reason for concern. But again, one game into conference play, the women are in a similar situation, probably one bid league. The league could be there for the taking, but what's going on here? I mean, we talked about their depth and their rebounding at the beginning of the season, how we might have expected them to be better. Again, just one game into conference play, but we're still hearing some of the same things from Diane. And this is a quote from post game after the UTSA game. UTSA played really hard. I don't think we played hard enough. I think we waited until the fourth quarter to play Temple basketball. We can't go through the conference like that. That's going to be the reality, and it has to change. I know that coaches have I mean, they're going to be critical of their teams, but we're hearing a lot about slow starts, the same theme, slow starts, rushing shots. We didn't play hard enough. Are they just not good enough, or do they just need to get out of their own way?
I think it's more they need to get out of their own way. I think Diane said the same thing in almost every single press conference that they're like kind of like that quote said they're not playing Temple basketball till the second half, till the fourth quarter, and it was especially evident against UTSA. I mean, I think they shot 20% through the first 3 quarters, and she said they were taking quick shots, they weren't waiting for things to come to them. Kind of like Kayla, especially going 3 for 18, even after she put up 36 points against Princeton before the holiday season. And it's just a mixture of, I mean, they're turning the ball over too much. They're not waiting for the offense to come to them. And I also think the other thing is, I think they have the talent to be good enough. I think there's plenty of talent there to be good enough and compete, but I think they need more out of their bench. They need more out of the players behind Tristan Taylor, Kayla Turner, Snia Craig, and Jaleesa Molina. I don't think they've gotten what Darren has expected out of them, out of players like Brianna Mead. I think Drew Alexander's shown flashes of being really productive and really good, especially shooting the ball in that fourth quarter against UTSA. She hit those trio of 3-pointers that really kept them in that game. She's done that in a couple of games, but I just don't think they've gotten the production out of that bench. And now you're going to need to have that bench production even more because Savannah Curry's going to be out for I'm not sure how long, but Diane Richardson said she's going to be out for a little bit, and that's a starting guard right there who can really defend, who's been in this program and knows how to play the style Dan Richardson wants, and you're going to be without that, bumping Drew Alexander back up to the starting lineup, and now you need Brandon Mead to play a little bit better off the bench, or Felicia Jacobs, or any of those players. They don't have a Kayla Turner or a Nissa Rivera off the bench like they had last year. I think that's kind of hurt them. I think the talent's there for those players like Brandon Mead or Felicia Jacobs to take those roles. I just feel like they haven't stepped into them yet, and it's just kind of like they're getting in their own way, game in and game out.
Let me ask you guys both, Jacob. I know you have some stuff to add here, and maybe we might have touched on this before Christmas. Who pulls this together? Who's the leader on the team? Because Diane sounds like a frustrated coach who keeps bringing up some of the same things over and over again. Who is, if any coach wants their team to be player led to a certain extent, who gets this together? If they do just need to get out of their own way, who on the court is the catalyst there that gets them out of their own way?
I think it's just probably the players who returned from last year, Tristan, Kayla, Jaleesa, because those are the people who have been here for a few years. They know what Diane wants, kind of like Colin said. They know the standard and the culture that the program has set. But to kind of go off of that, I think some of the things with the bench struggles, you have to realize Tristan was out for the last 4 games before the UTSA game. Savannah Curry was out, so Drew Alexander would probably be their leading scorer off the bench, and she's been catapulted in the starting lineup, which is definitely also another big factor of why the bench has struggled so much. But like Colin said, you need more from Brandon, you need more from Felicia Jacobs. But overall, it's a young team. There's not a single senior on the roster. I think with how successful the team's been the last few years, it's kind of easy to forget that. But like still, this is kind of a team who doesn't, I don't want to say lacks an alpha because it's not true. You have Tristan and Kip, but like kind of lacks kind of like a senior kind of veteran presence in a sense.
Jacob, I think that like senior presence is Tristan Taylor. That's what kind of the role she is, but she's not a senior. She's only in her third year. I think she's one of the players that really catapults them out of this just with her leadership, with her ability to command the offense and kind of run everything on the court. But I think the more important player for me here on the court is Jaleesa Molina. I think Diane Richardson and the staff are still waiting for her to take that jump that they envision she can be on the court. I mean, I think Jaleesa sat for almost the entire second and third quarters against UTSA because Diane said she was kind of just standing around and watching, and she only scored 3 points. I think it was an and one that came in the final 2 or 3 minutes of the game. And I feel like as I asked about Jaleesa, I asked about her about Jaleesa in an interview for the Philadelphia Inquirer story. And she said then she still kind of like thinks Jaleesa can take her game to another level and still doesn't realize just how good she is. I think if Jaleesa can continue to elevate her game, she elevated it in conference play last year, and we've seen flashes of that this year with the rebounding, with the scoring, with the getting out in transition. I think she can add another level to that she added last year that can kind of catapult this team to back to the top of the American.
What is that next level though for her? Is it just like you said, like getting out more in transition? Is it just being asserting herself more on offense? What does a next level look like for Jaleesa Molina?
I think it starts with not turning the ball over as much, and that's what Dimerson really wants to see from her. I'm pretty sure she leads the team in turnovers and has at least multiple a game where she either loses the ball or gets out of control on offense. I think she wants to like. I think what Diane wants is Julissa to really slow things down and assert herself more on offense, get out in transition more. She's really fast for a player her size, getting out in transition more because she's really good at getting those steals and then getting out in transition, doing that more, asserting herself more and limiting the turnovers. I think can really take her game from averaging like I think around 9 points per game up to like 14 or 15 with 8 or 9 rebounds a game. And that's a player who's an all conference player and a player that is one of the best players in the conference that can really, get Temple to that conference championship that they keep talking about.
I think something else is just maybe having to work on playing alongside Sanaya Craig because Julissa, she can space the floor, but I don't think she is like a floor spacing five by like nature. And I know a lot of the times Temple early on, especially early in conference or non-conference play, they try to do a lot of Sanaya Craig post-ups, and it's kind of something Sanaya struggle with. So front court spacing could be a little bit clunky, and maybe that's why her role doesn't seem as defined or her decision making isn't where it should be. So that's definitely something to think about. But overall, with the team, it's like you both said, like it's kind of been the same sentiments as the first game. The turnovers, the slow starts, and like Colin said, they really just can't get out of their way. Like I remember Big Five lost to Villanova. Diane Richardson said she had more energy than the team, just called herself a granny, saying so. And it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of the same sentiments. They just need to just kind of I don't know what it is, but like they have the talent. Like the talent is there from all parts of the starting lineup. It's just a matter of when it clicks and just hasn't.
Yeah, so again, they're playing at Wichita State tonight. That's a 3-12 Wichita State team, one that Temple should beat, but we shall see. Let's jump into the mailbag here. We have a lot of questions to get to. Before we do, our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers has a weekly tip for you to keep you safe in life and on the roads. Again, he's a very, very good injury lawyer, but he also wants to keep you safe in life so that you may not need his services. So here's Mike's weekly tip, and then we'll jump into the mailbag here to answer a bunch of the mailbag questions that you guys have for us.
Hey, Temple fans, it's 2026, and with this new year upon us, it is now the perfect time to make sure that you've taken the steps to protect yourself and your family. How is that? Well, when's the last time you took a look at your insurance policy for your car or for your home? It's important that you sit down with your insurance agent and make sure that you have the right coverage. Some states have changed their coverage. For example, New Jersey has increased its automobile insurance coverage minimums. Others, like New York, it's stayed the same. But are you properly protected? In the event that something goes wrong, have you properly protected yourself and your family by having the right insurance? Sit down with your agent and your broker, go over your policies, make an appointment, do it now, and understand this. There's something in the universe that seems to reward the people who protect themselves, because when you've protected yourself and have the right coverage, in fact, you're going to be okay. The person who doesn't, the person who cuts their coverage, something happens, and they're the ones who tragedy befalls. Go Owls.
All right, let's lead it off with some basketball questions here. Our friend Hick always hits us with 4 or 5 questions or so. We'll zip through these. How will the staff continue to manage the 3 long, skinny guys in the post? Will they pick up the pace to get easier buckets when possible? Will there be more sets to spring Tobias and Griffiths for in-rhythm threes? Will the staff work harder to minimize the occasional screw it, I'm going 1-on-4 mentality that conspires against the offensive flow? What's the outlook for managing the conference season flow? And asking for my wife, are we prioritizing size in our recruiting? Let's start with, will the staff work harder to minimize the occasional screw it, I'm going 1-on-4 mentality that conspires against the offensive flow? Just one game we're talking about here, but I don't think that was the case at all against UTSA. They moved the ball really, really well. Again, in the first half, they just weren't knocking down open looks, and then it's very simple, not complicated. They just started knocking down more shots. I don't think, has that been present in certain games this year? Yes, absolutely. I think there is a chance that they could settle in on being a team that moves the ball better, and you don't see as much of the 1-on-4 stuff that you saw last year. And a lot of that, again, give credit to Jordan Mason, but you might want to give some credit to Baba and some of the other players. I think they have been moving the ball well lately. And again, even if this win streak had to start by beating up on Georgian Court and St. Francis, need to start somewhere. I don't worry about that as much. Now, could they always revert back to that when in a tight spot? Of course, a lot of teams can. Prioritizing size and recruiting, I think this is all portal until you get your portal needs after the season. I doubt that they're going to get a difference making big out of the high school ranks. They're always prioritizing size. They also need the money to pay for it. Will there be more sets to spring Aiden Tobias and Gavin Griffiths for in rhythm threes? Yeah, I think this is a lot of stuff that they do and think about. Will they pick up the pace to get easier buckets when possible? They always have the green light to do that. But again, I think that you might want to take a positive from the fact that when they've had to play half court recently, they've been able to do it. How do you guys feel about any of these questions here that the Hick has posed?
To jump on the Tobias and Griffiths one, I think, like you said, they kind of have been doing that. The issue with Aiden, I've realized a lot, is whenever they do set a screen for him, whether it's on or off the ball, teams switch almost every time, and he just kind of defers and kind of resets the offense back to Jordan Mason. I think the lack of aggressiveness off the dribble has kind of been an issue with that. And I think Gavin, I think that's what they've been doing for him all season, whether it's Jordan Mason collapsing the defense, just sprays it out to the corner, or sometimes it's set like a little pin down screen from the baseline to kind of free him up. So I think that's something that just has been going on. And as far as the pushing pace, I think, again, that's something they also have been doing. It's just a lot of the times teams are just either getting back. But I think when you look at the UTSA game, UTSA kind of bottled them up in the half court a lot in the first half. I think Gavin scored 17 of his 23 points in the second half. A lot of that was in those early offense looks and kind of semi-transition where he's kind of attacking those unset defenses with quick threes.
I don't think they've really forced that much this year. That's just like an overarching thing. I mean, they're shooting 38% from three. Like that's like a top 35 mark in the nation. Their assist to turnover ratio over the past 5 is good. Like I feel like this offense is starting to hit its stride as far as flowing. I agree a lot with what Jacob said about Aiden having to be more aggressive instead of resetting. I think if Darian Ford's out again tomorrow, that provides another opportunity to do that. I mean, you saw it last year when Jamal Mashburn Jr. got injured. That's when you saw Zion Stanford take the step and be more aggressive on offense, and eventually parlay his way into a Big East contract.
With no playing time.
I only mentioned the money. Aiden has a tendency, because Darian Ford, when he's on, is so on and is such a big part of this offense that maybe it's easy for him to kind of fall back and play second fiddle. That he needs to kind of take that step and at times just take over a game.
There was an instance against UTSA. Sorry to go just one more thing, like against UTSA where Jordan Mason went out. They had Aiden play point for I think a possession or two, and Aiden just didn't attack all the dribble. Then second later, Fish just subbed in Jordan again.
Yeah, because he needs to. Because that's a perfect example in that situation. That's like when you need to not defer. Like you need to run the offense, whether that involves going 1-on-1 or playing 1-on-4, as the Hick would say, or if it actually runs setting up the offense. Like coming into the season, I think there was a strong thought that he would play the point a fair amount, and just with the Jordan Mason being so minute heavy and Darian Ford playing so much and all these other guards being able to play, he hasn't had to do it as much, I think, as they would have expected.
Yeah. Next question here from our friend Jaden Vallejo on Twitter. Is there an update on AJ Smith? Do you guys think he returns this season? Jaden, I do not. Things could change, but everything that we've been told is it sounds like there's a real good chance that he's going to shut it down for the season. Again, he's dealing with a shoulder injury. It's a loss for him. Really good perimeter defender. He's good at getting to the rim. We'll ask about him after the game Wednesday night. But if you were to, as my friends on the Eagles PHLY podcast, if you put a water pistol to my head, like, do you think he returns this season? I don't. I don't think it's likely that they're going to get him, and I don't think it's likely that they're going to get CJ Hines. So 2 losses for them in the backcourt. TU1834, our screen name from the basketball message board, one of our longtime subscribers. I remember before the season, Kyle mentioning how it had been a while since a Temple quarterback had started every game in a season. Any thoughts on why it happened in 2025 besides randomness and luck? What do you think, Kyle?
This is the first time they had something resembling a Division I offensive line in like 4 or 5 years. Like, that's really what it comes down to a lot. I mean, Evan Simon, did he always have the most time in the world? Were they all of a sudden, the 2024 Eagles out there? No. But compared to previous years, he went from being on his rear end most of the time to all of a sudden, I'm trying to bring up the stats. I'm using a lot of words as I'm trying to bring up the stats. In 2025, he was sacked. Oh no. He was sacked a lot fewer times than he was in 2024. I can't find them right away. And I think that's just it. The continuity, the offensive line was relatively healthy, and they developed underneath Al Johnson to the point that they were able to protect their quarterback.
Yeah.
Less hits equals fewer injuries.
Matt Deebs from our Al Scoot message board. The ticket office has been awfully quiet. Any idea what plans are for 2026? I'm sure they're trying to cash in on Penn State, but this time last year, a lot of us had already renewed. I haven't heard anything to date, and a lot of Penn State friends and family have been asking what the plan is.
He's since followed up onto his own post with a message saying he received a text about season ticket renewal. So
there we go.
So he Beetlejuiced it. He's spoken into existence.
So he just posted 3 times, and then it came into fruition. I got to see the Beetlejuice sequel. Did you see it? Did you ever see the original? You don't care, do you?
I saw the original. Yeah, I absolutely saw the original. I've seen the original a few times, but no, I never saw the second one.
Scheduling note to pass along that they're going to play at Toledo. So that was with the Coastal game not working out, right? So now they're playing, it's a home and home with Toledo. They go to Toledo this year, and then Toledo comes to Philly in 2032, 6 years later.
Yeah, I'll be dead for 4 years at that point.
Yeah. you always take your own mortality and just scrunch it up into a ball and throw it at us and say,
So 2032, when the ethereal presence of me is floating this earth, they will go at Delaware, host Rutgers, host Toledo, and then presumably play like an FCS team.
So if we're still recording the Scoop in 2032, you will be with us in spirit. You will literally be
John, repent for your sins. The ghost of Ausku passed.
Did you go to see Dickens Village this year? No?
I did not. I thought it was shut down until I found out that it was still up this year. Which
Yeah.
I'm now upset. It doesn't seem like they're going to liquidate that. And my dream was I was going to set aside a fair amount of money to try to buy the to buy the Scrooge at the end. But it seems like they're not liquidating that. They're going to continue to do the Dickens Christmas Village.
Did not see the Dickens Christmas Village, but we saw the light show. Awesome as always. Stapler01 is a screen name from our football message board. So we'll combine these two questions here from Stapler01 and Fig1, two of our longtime subscribers. Thank you both for the questions. Stapler01 asks us, how would you rank the position groups in terms of need going into the portal season? And then Fig1 says, rank our top 5 positions of need. I'll go first. Fig1 says quarterback 1, D-line 2, cornerback 3, linebacker 4, offensive line 5. Kyle, what do you think of this list? If you had to go five biggest needs.
I don't agree with 4 or 5 in his list at all.
Mhm.
I would say D-line 1, quarterback 2. Because like with quarterback, then we talked about this a little bit. There's so many returning pieces on offense that I feel like you don't necessarily have to like get. Would you like a Heisman finalist? Absolutely. If you just get a guy that's like an American Athletic Conference level starter, I feel like this offense will be fine. 3, I think they need a safety opposite of Avery Powell, and even honestly to give Avery Powell competition to push him. Like I think they need safeties. Corner you can kind of project of like, well, Denzel Chavis and Adrian Lang, like maybe they take that step. They brought in the JUCO guys, Nikhil Lawrence and Asa Locks. Clayton Barnes went out of his way to say that they think Asa Locks could be a starter for them this year. So I feel like corner is a need, but not necessarily like a huge one. And then 5, I'll put corner 4 because I think, yeah, maybe. But 5, I will say backup quarterback. Starting quarterback is number 2. Backup quarterback is number 5 because I do feel like they need to bring in 2 guys here to push because I don't think you want a true freshman out there in 2026.
Yeah. Colin, what do you think?
I think I'm in a similar boat to Kyle. I agree with quarterback. I agree with defensive line. I agree with corner. I also want to loop in like edge rushers. Maybe that's kind of in like defensive line there, but I think they need a couple of edge rushers with Cameron Stewart graduating, Charles Calhoun graduating. I think they need some guys to rush the quarterback in that room. And definitely another safety or two with Avery Powell back there with some of the guys graduating. I think that's 5. I don't know if I agree with like linebackers. And I think they returned 4 of the starting offensive linemen from last year as things currently stand.
I think those are the 2 strengths of the returning team.
Yeah. And I guess you can make the argument like depth, bringing more depth on the offensive line could be an argument for like biggest need, but I mean, you look at some other positions that need guys who can step up and play week 1. I don't think offensive line is in that top 5.
Jacob, you want to throw a top 5 list at us here in terms of portal needs for the football team?
I pretty much just echo the sentiments of my colleague, Colin.
It's efficient.
I love that.
Very, very efficient, very
That's
legal.
I didn't do anything on the project. As Colin said.
I'm still gonna go quarterback 1. I agree with you, Kyle, in that like we were kind of talking about this earlier today. I think this is one year in the portal era where I think you tip your cap to Temple to say, unless, some program could come in at any point and maybe buy out one of these guys. I don't know what their contracts look like exactly, but you're going to hear that Eric King's coming back. Jackson Pruitt announced that he's coming back. Jacoby Hills is coming back. The offensive line, there's going to be some continuity there. You're going to get Colin Chase back. We think that they're going to get JoJo Bermudez back. We think that they're going to get Peter Clark back. There are a lot of key pieces returning on offense. And to that, I would say you don't want this to be the year where you say, man, if we could have just gotten a good quarterback to just drop in there. I hear what you're saying. Like, if you get a competent enough guy, he should be able to get the ball around. But if you could just you don't want this to be the year where, like, man, everything else fell into place but the quarterback. So, easy to say quarterback 1, but I'll go quarterback 1. D-line definitely 2, whether it's defensive tackles, edge rushers. They need all the help they can get there. I would go, cornerback 3, safety 4. I could flip them back and forth. The secondary needs help Again, I think they added some guys that they certainly like in December. I'd still keep. I agree with you. I would take linebacker off of there. Being able to bring Curly Ordonez back is a
Harris
plus.
Stewart's back. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
feel good there.
In terms of offensive line, I'd still keep it on there at 5 just for depth. I know it sounds easy to say, but you did get through this year for the most part relatively healthy on the offensive line. What are I certainly don't want to speak this into existence, but what are the chances of that happening
Sure.
2 years in a row? So if Eric King gets dinged up or Jackson Pruitt goes down, you don't want you don't want any spot on that line. You don't want to be taking a significant
I just
step
think you
down.
already have 3 guys probably competing for one
Sure.
spot that have already like started that are like depth guys. Like
Mm.
you have Luke Watson coming back, you have
Yep.
Kevin Terry coming back, you have
Yep.
Manasseh Palu coming back. Like
Mhm.
those guys have all started games for you. That gives you probably like 7 guys that you feel pretty confident about rolling out there right now before you even factor in people that went from freshman to redshirt freshman or spent another year in the program.
Mhm.
So I'm just more. I guess I'm more confident there than others.
Maybe dark horse for me might be. I mean, do you throw receiver in there because you're not getting Kajai Holloway back unless there's some sort
Yeah,
of
they need a third receiver.
yeah.
Is that Demonte Green? Is it Demonte?
Demonte.
Yeah, Demonte Green, or is that? I mean, they're recruiting other receivers, so they clearly feel the same way. But yeah, I think they need a third guy.
Next question here from the screen name Manacart. What was the most satisfying win in 2025? UMass, UTSA, or Tulsa? This is a two-parter. We'll answer this first one first. UMass, UTSA, or Tulsa? Which of those wins was the most satisfying?
Colin, are you satisfied by any of those wins?
I'll go with I'm stuck between UMass and UTSA. I think both wins have their like different like satisfying reasons. Like UMass win is like a big win for the first game of the new like head coaching regime. You end that long like road winless streak, and it kind of like sets things off on the right foot. But like I think UTSA is like, especially looking back at it now, that's a win against a bowl team, a comeback win against a team that was end up being in a bowl, and kind of like shows that Temple had the ability to beat these good teams, these bowl level teams that you can carry into next year. I mean, I'm gonna go like 1A, 1B of UTSA and UMass.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, I would say UTSA, just because of the way it happened. Because like Tulsa, they kind of like held on to win that. Like they get the 2-point conversion that doesn't go their way. They win that right after the Navy game that had the possibility of falling apart. But UTSA was just like you were down big at half and you came back and rallied and beat a pretty decent team at home. So I would say UTSA.
what
I
about
think
you?
the UTSA win meant more like objectively, obviously because I was a better team, but I think the UMass win kind of had more of an emotional weight to it because being Casey Keeler's first game, kind of ushering in a new era of kind of like we're going to turn this thing around. It was a really feel good win, so I think I'd go UMass.
I would say UTSA, but Tulsa would be 1A for me. I agree with you, Kyle. They had to hold on at Tulsa, but they did. And it set them, this kind of would dovetail into the answer to the next question here. It should have set them up to be bowl eligible because it was a nice win for them on the road. The second question from Manacart is what was the biggest disappointment of the season? The Navy loss or not accepting the bowl invite? Well, to clarify his question, it's not like from what we've been able to gather, they just didn't get back to Birmingham Bowl in time. I don't think that they just flat out said thanks, but no thanks. Biggest disappointment of the season to me is the Navy loss.
To me, it's the Army loss. Like the Navy loss, like they played well. They just got beat. Like they were the better team on the field, and the Navy just like
Yeah.
got the ball. Like they came back and they won the game. Like that happens. Army was just like you were just like out game planned, and they really
Yeah.
just like did what they wanted against you, and that was just like demoralizing because you knew like it was far fetched for them to beat Tulane or North Texas. So you knew that was kind of just like, well, this is the end of their bowl eligibility chances.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, our Army was certainly disappointing. You knew exactly what they were going to do. The Army was probably fairly cognizant of the fact that their defense was very average, and so they try to possess the ball even more than they do. You try that trick play that didn't work, but Navy, yeah, good credit to Navy, but between mismanaging the clock and then your safeties just not lining up right on that Blake Horvath run, really, really disappointing. Colin, Jacob, any thoughts on this one?
Probably go Army too, just because that second half, especially fourth quarter, just absolute, just brutal watch, especially with the stakes there, because at least in Navy, you kind of had those few games to kind of get that 6 win to be bowl eligible. But like there was just so much riding on that Army game, and they didn't get it done because they had to face obviously two really tough opponents in those next few games after Army.
Colin, I was going to ask you because I can't resist. That was your first trip up to West Point, right?
Yeah, it
Can
was.
you acknowledge that the scenery there was just as impressive and just as beautiful as Annapolis, or are you just not willing to?
Oh, it was. It for
Okay,
sure was.
Here's the
Yeah.
difference. If you're not doing something army related and you walk out on the West Point, what else are you doing?
good point. Oh no,
Nothing.
definitely,
Annapolis
definitely.
is
You're going to McDonald's after the game.
Yeah, Annapolis is a fun town that also happens to have the Naval Academy there.
Very
Is there a
fun.
little shrine to where you proposed to Meg?
No, I couldn't even point it. I'd have to go through Google Maps and see or Gmails and see where I rented the Airbnb.
Have you ever, this is slightly off topic. Chelsea asked me the other night, what color are my eyes? And I froze for a second and I forgot what her eye color was. Does that make me a bad husband? Or have you ever like
I've had to
frozen?
with Meg. I don't think it's an issue. So not to get too like corny, but like my children, one of them, Jordan has my eyes, Haley has Meg's eyes. So like I can tell because I see Haley's eyes all the time. Like those are Meg's eyes. There's been times where I've had that like when I like high school Kyle had like high school girlfriend ask me that. I'm like, great question. No idea. But no, I know the color of my wife's eyes.
I stumbled over it first and
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're like, of course I know that, but like once you're forced to, you're like, There's times when I really have to think about like children's birthdays. Like, what day were you born? Was it the 10th or the 4th? I'm like, okay, it's the 10th. Of course I know that, but like when you put on the scene with it,
big one, a basketball question. To date, what is the biggest surprise with our basketball program? Can be a negative or a positive related to a player or our coaches. Biggest surprise for basketball this year. Is it easy to say the high level play of Jordan Mason, or you guys have something else in mind?
I think you got to go to the simple answer. Jordan Mason for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's Darian Ford. Like Jordan Mason, at least to me, like has Jordan Mason been good? Yes. Has Jordan? But I knew Jordan Mason was a point guard. I didn't know Darian Ford was a guy that was gonna push for 20 a game, like 18 a game.
Yeah.
Just because he had such a track record of not doing that. So for him to
Yeah.
go to a higher level of competition and then like almost double his scoring output I think he's the biggest surprise.
I think the disappointment of the women's team is also a surprise, not obviously in a positive way. So that could also be an option.
Kyle, do we read the next? Do we read the name of this next Twitter handle?
I giggled at this.
Read it, Kyle. I think Kyle should read it.
No, I think
I
this
can
is a
read
John
it.
thing. This is John's
Uh,
section.
There's we appreciate the mailbag.
What is worse? Like, which is the worst one to
I don't
read?
know I don't know if it's the Twitter name or the handle, but this I don't know who this person is, but nevertheless, I appreciate the mailbag question here. Very broad question. I know it's so early, but as it stands now, where do you see Temple football finishing next season? Optimistic or pessimistic? I'll lead us off super quick, tip it over to you guys. I'd have to be more optimistic than pessimistic, even though they have questions to answer, namely who's the quarterback. But to touch on something we were talking about a few minutes ago, you tip your cap to the staff for keeping most of the offensive line together, a lot of the key playmakers. I think they are set up for continuity and success there. And as long as they can stay healthy in the spring and in preseason camp, the expectation should be that they should be bowl eligible next year. You have the chance to return someone like a Kevion Mason. Maybe you're really excited about RJ Blunt. I'm more optimistic than pessimistic, and I would not at all be surprised if they're a bowl team next year.
I agree. I assume that the only reason people are pessimistic at this point is just because they've gotten one transfer portal commit and that came a month ago. It's very early. Let the dust settle. Honestly, if you could like hit yourself in the head with a rock and wake up 3 weeks from now, it's probably your best course of action as far as mental like well-being, physical well-being. I'm not a doctor. Please don't take medical advice from me. Mental well-being. Just tune out. Subscribe to Al Scoop and tune out because like the dust will settle. They'll have a quarterback. They'll have a lot more pieces. There's a lot of roster spots to go along. I'm nowhere close to pessimistic.
And then you can read about it on Al Scoop because you're subscribed.
I'm also more optimistic than pessimistic. I mean, it's the same thing that John, Kyle, you guys have said. The guys they're bringing back already, and the ability to add more through the transfer portal. It's so early. Like I think optimism can only grow by the day. Things can change anything we mentioned starts literally right after we record. They could, add somebody or somebody could enter. So I mean, things can go either way, but I'm definitely more optimistic than pessimistic.
Sunny Al, the screen name here, has two questions for us in the mailbag. Question number one, Casey Keeler mentioned Penn State had contacted Temple last year about a potential exhibition type spring game. I haven't heard much from any other teams about exhibitions for spring games. How possible would an FCS matchup be, for example, Monmouth or Sacred Heart? Would it be beneficial for Temple? I think it would certainly be beneficial. I think that now with the portal window set up where there's no spring portal now, you're not as concerned. Well, I should say this. You could still be concerned. Like, let's say that Temple were to scrimmage up and they played like a Penn State or they played a Rutgers or a Maryland, and then Rutgers staff or Maryland staff or Penn State staff remembers a really good player for Temple. Could they always have their people tamper and say, hey, play your 4 games and get out and sit out and transfer up to us? Yes, that could happen. But sure, it would be beneficial. Any reps that you can get against another team would be beneficial. But I'm curious about what you guys think about this.
I think that scenario though could play out regardless of playing another team in the spring game.
Sure.
Peter Clark goes out and has 700 yards in the first 4 games, and like nothing's stopping another team being like pump the brakes and take the season off. I don't think spring ball affects that. I think it's more just you can dictate as a head coach. You can dictate what your team does. All of a sudden, you put me into a situation where I'm scrimmaging Penn State in the spring. How do I know there's not a redshirt freshman on Penn State that is going to go balls to the walls and just take cheap shots at my senior star tight end?
Yeah.
I think coaches as like a personality type are so focused on like being able to control the controllables, is the cliche, that they would be hesitant to put themselves in this situation. You obviously see it in basketball, but injuries are a lot less frequent in basketball.
Question number two, should and could Temple use its spring game as a way to bring local businesses or even larger companies in to see the product in the field, potentially showing why businesses should or should not invest into Temple athletics? I've not been to a spring game in years since I currently live in Florida, so I'm not sure what the vibe is like. Sure. Anything they can do to spur investment in athletics? Yeah.
The owlscoop.com bowl. And it'll just be the spring game. With the first bowl game of the season.
Which local business would you want to partner with if we had a chance to put our stamp at the owlscoop.com bowl being the spring game? Which local business would you want to partner with?
The conglomerate that owns all the halal trucks in the city. And then the winning team gets to pay the old prices for the halal truck food. They go back to the $5 deal.
Oh, the $5
For an entire year, you can pay the regular price for this, not the COVID prices, the post-COVID prices, the pre-COVID price of $5 for a salad combo with rice and a can of Diet Coke. White Sauce Heights. What the owlscoop.com white sauce hot sauce ball.
Lone Star 2000, if you were given the power to fix the football portal, what would be the first thing that you would change?
I've said this before. I think it's you just go back to one-time free transfer. If it was just you can transfer one time without sitting out, and then after that you have to sit out a year, a lot of this comes grinding to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
The issue, I guess, would then be like if you're Temple, you have a guy come back, he's already transferred once, he's used his free year, he has a great junior year. Can't I lowball him for his senior year? Because like you're not going to sit out your senior year, right? Like there needs to be some governance. But I think that's the easiest way to kind of like just like put a lot of the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, I would agree. Jacob, Colin, any other ideas?
Maybe to build off Kyle's thing, maybe like in that case with the senior year, you can kind of add like how the NBA and NFL does, kind of like a veteran minimum amount, like for how many years you play, just to kind of avoid that.
That's another way to do this in general, is just like, hey, we're going to make everything performance based. The real overarching answer to all this is collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
Any first or second tax apron would probably work wonders.
Ooh. Yeah, you start bringing luxury tax into this, you see how that goes. Look, but it's just like baseball, like what can you do to stop the Dodgers? You need to have a salary cap and you need to collect the bargaining agreement this. It's very hard for me to envision a scenario where that happens in college football, but it should happen. And whether or not that involves Congress getting involved or what, but it needs to be governed because the NCAA right now is feckless.
Yeah, I know in pro sports, like especially with the aprons and like this luxury tax, like kind of penalizes you by being able to take away draft picks. But like with college, I don't know like what the equivalent of that could be in a sense.
Recruiting visits.
Yeah, like stuff like that. That kind of like
And even that, not an
It
apples to
doesn't
apples
matter how
thing,
many
but
people
yeah,
committed on the first day of the portal without visiting.
yeah.
But then you'll have guys that just get paid 61 grand a year to be like a virtual visit person. We're gonna strap a GoPro to you, and you're just gonna you're gonna pretend to be this person that we're not allowed to visit. They forget to cut the camera. Like, oh, John, stop going to the bathroom.
I just envisioned you with a GoPro strapped to you, just running around Temple's.
Hello, I am 5-star wide receiver prospect. Temple's not allowed to have me in on a visit, so I'm here in his place.
All right. Well, very, very much appreciate the mailbag questions. Hope you guys had a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season and have a wonderful 2026 ahead. Again, if you haven't done so already, 50% off an annual subscription to owlscoop.com. Now's a great time to subscribe because things are going to be very hectic, very newsy, very busy over the next several days here with the transfer portal. So we will continue to do our best to bring you the latest and best and timeliest news on that front. We'll have a lot more football, a lot more hoops to talk about next week. We'll talk to you soon.